Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalam ala Rasulullah. Welcome, my brothers and sisters, to another episode on our channel at Lovely Course. Today, we're going to be talking about fasting. Usually, when people talk about fasting, it's around the time of Ramadan, and we talk about the beautiful reward and blessings of the month of Ramadan. Today, we want to do something different. In this session, we want to talk about the rulings and fiqh. Meaning, a lot of times people will have questions. Is so and so supposed to fast? If this happens to me, does that break my fast? If I'm doing this, what's right? What are the. So there's a lot of rulings and fiqh surrounding fasting. And today, that's what we want to talk about. We want to cover all those subjects that are related to fasting, what I'm supposed to do, what I'm not supposed to do. And if this happens, what happens? And what do I do? So the fiqh is what we want to focus on. Now, there's a couple of challenges. The first challenge is there's a lot of details of things. So for example, when you travel, you can break your fast. But the scholars break the travel into 5 different kind of travels. There's a travel that is halal. You're traveling to a place where there's, let's say, an Islamic convention. You're going to Umrah. Yes, in that case, you can break your fast. I'm going to Vegas to gamble. That's a travel called haram. So no, it does not excuse you from fasting. And there's 5 levels of traveling. So when we say traveling, I'm summarizing traveling because we don't have time to go through all of that detail. So there's going to be a lot of summarization of concepts. It doesn't mean that we can't drill in the future into it, but I want to be able to answer and address as many general main lines to give you as many answers and information. The second thing is some subjects, their difference of opinion. And I'm not going to have enough time to get into details. In the future, maybe we'll have other sessions to get into the details. For example, donating blood or hijama. Hijama is when, coupling, when people take blood from you or whatever. So some people say it breaks your fast because there's a hadith that says, Fatr al-Hajim, the person that does the hijama and the person receiving the hijama, the coupling, and the person doing the coupling, both of their fast is null. It nullifies both of their fast. But some people, including myself, believe that hadith is mansukh, that there's another hadith. So when I say, for example, that donating blood or hijama does not break your fast, it doesn't mean that I haven't done my research there. So, but it means that I'm summarizing the opinions. I know, and we know, that there is difference of opinions in a lot of what I'm going to say, but I'm going to try and give the opinion and give a little bit of brief explanation because we want to cover a lot of materials that have to be fasting. When you leave this session, we want you to be a faqih. We want you got to meet your brother that's going to answer your question, your sister, your husband, your wife, your child, your neighbor. You're going to be in the masjid and someone says, I have to donate blood. Is that going to break my fast? I'm going to go to the dentist. Is that going to break my fast? I taste the food. Does that break my fast? My son is so old. My daughter, we want you to know as much information. And then in the future, we can get into a little bit of detail. So this is a very express, high-speed trip. I hope you enjoyed with us. Number 1, what is fast? Fast comes from the Arabic word Sawm. Sawm means linguistically and then Islamically or jurisprudence-wise. Linguistically, Sawm means to give up something. If you give up something as a form of self-sacrifice, it's Sawm. For example, Sayyidah Maryam says, I am fasting to Allah by not speaking, as in Surah Maryam. So giving up talk as a form of self-discipline and a way that gets us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in some cases, as earlier nations used to do, is a form of Sawm. Islamically, Sawm means to give up things that break our fast, which are usually the giving up food and drink and things that replace food and drink. Food and drink and things that replace food and drink. And then the second category is that private relationship that we have as husband and wife. Right. So who must fast? Number 1, for us to be rewarded for our fasting, we have to be Muslim. So the first person that fasts has to be Muslim. Number 2 is reaching the age of bulugh, the age of puberty. Right. This is important. Why? Because some of us assume when my children are 13, 14 years old, I'm going to teach them how to fast. But we don't realize that sometimes our daughters, sometimes our sons might reach the age of puberty at 8 years old, at 9 years old, at 10 years old, and now becomes compulsory on me to educate them that it's compulsory on them to fast. So number 2, who must fast is someone that at the age of puberty, and some people get there earlier than others. So as a parent and an uncle and aunt and family member, I need to be more cautious of my community and my family members. Number 3 is aql. Aql means someone that has their mental faculty. So if someone goes through a concussion, for example, or it cannot think, they don't know where they are, or someone has some kind of a disease, or some kind of a situation where sometimes they know their surroundings, other times they don't know their father, they don't know their mother. Oh, my father, he wants to kill me, my brother, and they're completely out of it mentally. Then that person during that state does not have to fast. When they come back to their normal state or medicated or whatever, then they can fast. So third one, that mental faculty being in place is the third condition. Number four, being a resident of the place where you are. So if I live in Dallas, Texas, for example, when I'm in Dallas, Texas, then it's compulsory on me to fast. If I travel to New York City for the weekend, then the time that I'm traveling, it's not compulsory on me to fast. It's optional for me. So I can fast or I can break my fast depending on the situation that implies, but it's not compulsory when you're traveling out of your vicinity. Number five is being capable of fasting, which means health wise. For example, if someone is sick, and again, the word sick is a general word. Sometimes you have a little headache, you have a little whatever. That's not what's one normally meant by sick. Sick is something where sometimes you have to take medication, or sometimes it's going to weigh very heavily on you. So in cases like these, for example, you don't have to break your fast. You have the option to break your fast. Also, in the case of women where they're going through that time of the month, their menstruation period, then they are permitted. Actually, they have to kind of break their fast. And this is a blessing from Allah because let's say it happens at 3 o'clock, about Asr time. So from Fajr until Asr, she's fasting and she's blessed and rewarded by Allah for giving up food and drink. And at 3 o'clock, that starts, the time of the month starts. Now she's rewarded and blessed by Allah for eating and drinking. And it shows the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Sawm is a form of mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not something that's supposed to weigh heavily upon us. So also childbirth makes the fast not compulsory, but makes it optional. So a lady that chooses to breastfeed her child for 1 year, or the complete one for 2 years, for example, then she has the option of breaking her fast during that time and making up those days at a different time. Same thing for the person that's sick, to make up their days after that. So if I'm sick for 3 days, or the period is 5 days, or whatever, then I can break my fast for those 5 days, and then I make up those 5 days before the following Ramadan. So when this Ramadan is over, I have from this Ramadan until the following Ramadan to make up for those 5 days. Can I make sunnah before? Absolutely yes. So after Ramadan is over, I want to fast the 6 days of Shawwal fasted. And then I want to fast Mondays and Thursdays fasted. But you don't have to make up those 5 days until the following Ramadan. So I have almost a whole year or 11 months to make up those 5 days. And if there's any sunnah that you want to fast before that, or nafila, or the day of Arafah, or whatever, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Okay. Like, now the types of fast. There's different kinds of fast. Number one was we call a Sawm al-Wajib, compulsory fast that we have to fast. And there's two kinds of compulsory fast. The first one is what we call wajib bishara. Shara means Allah, the Quran made it compulsory upon us. Which one is that? That's the month of Ramadan. Allah in the Quran said, Kutiba alaykum, it's compulsory upon you to fast the month of Ramadan. There's another one that's wajib bil mukallaf. Mukallaf, me as a person, I make it compulsory upon myself. What does that mean? Okay. Number one is nadr. Nadr is, I swear to Allah, I say, Allah, my son is sick, and if you heal my son, I will fast 3 days. Number one, we're not supposed to make nadr. As Muslims, we're not asking of a stingy God, the way you have to bargain with him. God, if you make my son good, no. Fast your days and pray to Allah. But you don't need, it's not a contract. Allah is not stingy. Allah doesn't need your fast. No, he's generous and kind. So you make your dua and you pray. And if you want to fast, you fast for what you need. But you don't make a condition. It's not recommended. But if I make that condition, I say, Allah, if you heal my son, I will fast 3 days. And immediately my son is healed after I fasted 3 days. After I made the dua, then I have to fulfill that nadr. So that becomes compulsory on me. The other one is al-kafara. Kafara is there certain things, when we break certain promises or break certain rulings, we have the option of fasting. If I swear by Allah that I will do this and I don't do it intentionally, then I have to fast X amount of days. That makes it compulsory upon me. The third one is qada. Qada, if I don't fast X amount of days in Ramadan, let's say 5 days, then I can fast those 5 days anytime after Ramadan. Like, the second thing is sawm tatawwu. So we talked, there's wajib, there's compulsory fast. Then there is tatawwu, there is voluntary fasting. This is the sunnah. This is where you're rewarded for it. The tatawwu, there's different kinds of tatawwu. One of them is sawm tatawwu al-muqayyad. Muqayyad means the Prophet ﷺ did it or specifically recommended it. He said those are special days, you'll get rewarded so much for them. So some of those are 6 days of Shawwal. So after Ramadan is over, in the Arabic calendar, that month after Ramadan is called Shawwal, whether it's 29 or 30 days. So the day of Eid, we're not supposed to fast. It's haram to fast it. After that, I have about 28 or 29 days. In those days, I can choose any 6 days. It could be after each other. It could be 2 days here and 1 day there, another day there until I get all my 6 days in. The 6 days of Shawwal is highly recommended. Then there is fasting Mondays and Thursdays. It's the Sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ recommends it and used to fast Mondays and Thursdays in many cases. And then 3 days in the middle of the Arabic calendar month. So the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th, known as Al-Ayam al-Bid in the Arabic calendar month, and other days such as the Yom of Arafat. So those are days where the reward is so much that the Prophet ﷺ highly recommended fasting those days, muqayyad. Now there's also called Sawm Tatawwu' al-Mutlaq, which means I woke up in the morning, I feel good, whatever, and I want to fast. Absolutely, go ahead and fast. You can fast at that time whenever you feel, any day. But there are a few days it's haram to fast. So you can fast any day of the year, nafila, sunnah, but there's certain days that it's haram to fast. What are those days that it's haram to fast? Number one, Yawmay al-Eid. Yawmay al-Eid, we have two Eids, and so the 2 days of the Eid, it's haram to fast because those are days of happiness and joy, and Allah wants us to be happy. So it's haram for us to fast. The second one is Ayam al-Tashriq, around the days of Hajj. And then the third one is what we call Yawm al-Shak. Yawm al-Shak is Ramadan is either tomorrow or after tomorrow. I'm not sure. Nobody's sure yet. They're going to look at the moon or sighting or calendars or whatever. It may be tomorrow, maybe it's after tomorrow. We're not sure yet. So I say, you know what? Just to be sure, I'm going to fast tomorrow anyways. There's no confirmation. I'm just going to fast. No, that day becomes haram. Yawm al-Shak, you don't fast it. If we know tomorrow is Ramadan 100%, we fast it. If we're not sure, you don't fast it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it very easy upon us. So that day of doubt, shak, we don't have to fast it. Like, how do we know the start of the month of Ramadan? Again, like I said, there's a lot of discussions, but we're trying to summarize those discussions. So as we're summarizing those discussions, I'm going to just give important points. So how do we know the start of the month of Ramadan? Okay. We have a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ without getting into the debate in which he says, "Sumu li ru'yatihi waftiru li ru'yatihi." If you see the hilal, you start fasting. If you don't see the hilal, don't start fasting. The month is not over yet. وَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ I'm sorry. صُومُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ, fast when you see the hilal. And at the end of the month, when you see the next hilal, the next moon, then you break your fast if it's 29 days, for example. وَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ. So today, we're looking for the moon and we did not see it. It's the 29th day, the month before Ramadan. We're looking for the moon. We did not see the moon. We did not sight it. What do we do? Then you complete the month 30 days and you start after that. So the ru'ya, seeing with the naked eye, everybody agrees 100%. If you have one Muslim, in some cases two Muslims that see it, then the people in your locality or your state or your country or your continent, whatever, as long as they're in the same area, whatever, they should fast. There's no disagreement in that, 100%. So now the question becomes, you go and you see it with your eye. Me, I don't have excellent sight. So I wear my glasses next to you and I look at, oh, I see it. Now, if I use something to make me see better, technology to make me see better, is that permissible? You're going to say, okay, if you're wearing your glasses, that's perfectly okay. So to make the long argument short, using telescopes or calling NASA and looking through Hubble telescopes and whatever, 100% makes it halal for us to be able to start our fast. So leveraging science and leveraging all the technology to view it and writing the calendars is 100% a way of doing it, to simplify the argument. Now, the question becomes, is each one exclusive? I have to follow the sighting by my eye, or I have to follow the calculations and the calendar and NASA and the stars? No, they complement each other. What does the complement each other means? Sometimes, even though the scientists might say it's 100% accurate to see with this telescope or whatever, okay. I'm a human being. Let's say I work for you. I work for NASA. I work for your lab and so on. And you said Ramadan starts on March 1st. And I went to the website and I thought Ramadan starts on March 2nd. Human intervention adds mistakes. So the mistake could be with the technology. The mistake could be with the person typing it up or conveying the message. Mistakes happen. No one is perfect. So what happens in that case? If somebody sees the hilal the night of the 29th or the night before March, if somebody sees the hilal, they're going to say, no, 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 no. Ramadan starts tomorrow. It starts the 1st, not the 2nd of March. So this one complements this one, and this one complements that one. Let's take another example. Another example is a Bedouin, someone that is a farmer, a herdsman, or whatever, that lives in Northern Africa. They travel there. There's no internet. There's no cell phones. There's no apps. There's no communications or whatever. They're living out there. And a little child over there can read the moon. They can look at it and say, oh, Gamar 15, this is the 15th day of the month. You see how big and beautiful it is? Or this is the 29th day or 28th day. Tomorrow you'll not be able to see it. A new moon will be born. If you ask someone that lives in other areas, like here in the US, one of some of our children about a moon being born, they're going to be looking, what? There's a birth to the moon and it happens every month and there's a 15th day and we have no idea what that means. So that person that doesn't have a cell phone, that doesn't have an app, that doesn't have a calendar in front of him, he's a simple hertz person and he can see the moon and cite it for himself and say, Ramadan starts tomorrow. Or I did not see it. Ramadan starts after tomorrow. God bless you 100%. You follow your site, you and your community and your imam and your masjid, and you start 100% by citing. We have someone else that lives in the US. They have the app on their phone and the app tells them the calendar. Ramadan starts on this day. And the imam in the masjid says, we're going to follow this calendar. We're going to follow this location. We're going to follow this citing of this organization or this technology or whatever. 100% follow that organization. They complement each other. There's no contradiction between them. Islam is meant to make things easier. Like Arkan al-Siyam. What are the pillars? Just like we have pillars of Islam, they are pillars of fasting. What are the pillars of fasting? Number one is an-niyah. Number one is the intention. It's compulsory to intend fasting. Just like any good deed that we do pretty much, we have to have the intention. So when it comes to the compulsory fast, we're supposed to intend it. We're supposed to have the niyah. The niyah for fasting is not spoken. I don't have to come in on the second, before Fajr prayer on the second day and say, no, wait till I intend to fast the second day of Ramadan, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in accordance to, no. The fact that you're doing suhoor, the fact that you're praying tarawih, the fact that, you're preparing your food and that this itself is the intention. That itself is the niyyah. So the fact that you intend to fast Ramadan, you walk in Ramadan, you're reading your Quran, and you're following the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's your intention. It's not something that has to be spoken. But if I am doing qada, I'm making up a day for Ramadan, for example, or I'm fasting something that's compulsory, remember, I have to make that intention. So compulsory fast, generally speaking, you have to have the intention to fast that day. Why do we say that specifically? We say it because the sunnah is different. The sunnah, if it's a Monday and I want to fast on a Monday, I don't have to come before Fajr and say, I intend to fast. Let's say after Fajr, I didn't eat, I didn't drink, I didn't have any private relationships with my spouse, and I slept after Fajr until 10 o'clock. I wake up 10 o'clock and, I feel good, I'm not hungry. At that moment, I can say, I intend to fast. Nawaitu an asum, just like the Prophet ﷺ did. After Fajr prayer many times, he would come up and say, I intend to fast. As long as after Fajr, you did not do anything that breaks your fast. Like, mubtilat al-sawm, what are the things that nullify our fast? They cancel our fast. Our fast is not valid if we do those things. Number one, jima' al-rajul imra'atuh. It's that private relationship between the husband and the wife. When the husband has sexual relations with his wife during the day of Ramadan, which means from Fajr to Maghrib, then that is one of the things that destroys your fast. Actually, this is one of the worst things that you could ever do, that destroys your fasting and nullifies your fasting completely. Like, what do I do to rectify that? If I want to fix it, how do I fix it? There's a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ teaches us what to do. There's a verse in the Quran that tells us the three things, and then the hadith explains it. So there's actually a couple of hadith. One of the hadith, a man, had relationships with his wife, and after Fajr, he told her, after it happened, in the next day in the morning, he told his wife and his kids, let's go and talk, and his family, let's go talk to the Prophet ﷺ. They said, no. What you have did is a very big sin. We don't want to be embarrassed. We don't want him to say something that's going to destroy our family reputation. You go by yourself. You're on your own. So the man went and he was so nervous and afraid to the Prophet ﷺ and said, Prophet of Allah, I committed a big sin during the day of Ramadan. I had relations with my wife. How do I fix this problem? And the Prophet ﷺ said, what's in the Quran? The first one is عتق رقبة. Back then they had prisoners of war and they would serve in the house and so on. So he said, if you have a prisoner of war, you can release them for the sake of Allah. He said, Prophet of Allah, I don't have anyone that serves under me from the prisoners of war. I'm not a guardian over any of them. So the second one, the Prophet ﷺ says, صِيَامُ شَهْرَيْنِ مُتَتَابِعَيْنِ. As in the Quran, it says to fast 2 continuous months. In the Arabic calendar, a month could be 29 days or 30 days. So if you're lucky and it's 29 and 29, or 29 to 30, or 30 and 30, basically 58 to 60 days, depending on the calendar month that you're fasting continuously. But that man, in the second option, in the order, he said, Prophet of Allah, I could even fast Ramadan. You want me to fast 60 days? I can't do it. So the third option in the order, as in the verse in the Quran, the Prophet ﷺ says that in that case, you have to feed 60 people, 60 poor people. He said, Prophet of Allah, I am the poorest man in Medina. If you look at all of Medina, I am the poorest. How am I going to feed 64 people? I don't even have enough to feed myself and my family. So the Prophet ﷺ laughed and said, go to this house. This is the house of Sadaqah. This is where they give the charities, and ask them for this charity. And they got the charity, and he says, you take it, and with the intention of feeding, you feed your own family. And he shows the rahmah, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the mercy of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So if someone has that relationship, more than likely it's going to be the second and third option, which is if they can fast 60 days, then that'll be a good thing. And if you're not capable of 60 continuous days without a break amongst them, unless it's a day that it's haram to fast, then the third option, which is the feeding the 60 poor people. Right. Next is mubtil. The second thing that destroys or nullifies or breaks our fast is al-akl wa shurb amdan, is to eat and drink intentionally in the day of Ramadan. All I can say is don't you dare do it. Not because of the sin. I mean, the sin, forget about the sin. It's a very big sin to intentionally go over one of the pillars of your faith as a Muslim. So I'm not even going to talk about the sin. I'm talking about the reward. I'm talking about the reward. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, it is, if you were to break one day of fast, Siyamud dahr, if you fast 1 year or you fast a dahr your whole life, you'll not be able to make up for that one day. There's so much reward and blessings. If you fast your entire life, you're not able to make up for that one day. So don't dare. I'm not even going to talk about this one. Shame on you if you think of breaking one day of fast. Yeah, this is, you can't miss it. It's like someone coming and I say, I want to write you, someone says, I want to write you, Bashir, a check for $1 million or $10 million. And I say, you know what? I'm not going to go. And you know that I have bills and I even can't pay my rent and I can't pay this. And I'm like, $10 million check. And I'm like, I don't want it. You're like, are you stupid? What's wrong with you? So I don't even want to touch the subject of breaking our fast intentionally because we're not going to do it, inshallah, no matter what. Next is inzal al-mani bikhtiyarih. So if semen comes out by choice, that I choose to ejaculate or stimulate myself and release it intentionally. If it happens unintentionally, so someone is sleeping and they have a wet dream, that does nothing to your fast. But if someone does it intentionally, then we do the qada. We fast the days to make up for those days, but there's no kafara. You don't have to pay anything or feed anybody or whatever. You fast those days, and of course you have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. Right. Number 4 is al-qay amdan. Al-qay amdan means to intentionally throw up or vomit or make yourself sick. So someone intentionally goes and makes themselves sick. Some people choose to do that for one reason or the other. Then that nullifies and breaks my fast. Again, Islam wants us to be healthy, and whatever intention that we did, that we replace it. However, if it happens uncontrollably, so not intentionally, I did not intentionally make myself vomit or get sick. Unintentionally, I saw something and then I just threw up, for example. Then in a case like that, it does not break your fast. It only breaks your fast if you intentionally do that. Number 5 that nullifies or breaks our fast is al-hayd and al-nifas. Al-hayd and al-nifas. Hayd is that time of the month, as we mentioned earlier, and nifas is after the time of childbirth and nursing and so on, and childbirth. So hayd, when we talk about hayd, for example, it doesn't matter what time of the day it happens, then at that moment it breaks the fast. Okay, so if a woman is fasting from Fajr until Asr, at the time of Asr, that happened, let's say Asr is at 3 o'clock, then she's rewarded by Allah and blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for fasting all the way till Asr. And at the time of Asr, she's rewarded and blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to intentionally break her fast and eat and drink. Mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then after Ramadan, whatever number of days that she broke, she's able to make up those days very comfortably. And that's a rahmah and ease from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In terms of nursing, again, some women nurse for 1 year, some women nurse for the full time, which is the 2 years from the date of birth in the Arabic calendar. So again, if a woman chooses to do the 2 years or the 1 year, she's permitted, if she's breastfeeding on a regular basis, that she can break her fast and make up for it later, so that there's no tiring and she's able to nourish herself and her child as well. Like, now we have something called adab as-siyam. There's certain etiquettes that we do while we're fasting. Some of those etiquettes, nice things that we're supposed to do, we get rewarded for doing. Number one is a-suhoor and al-iftar. Why am I saying those two? Because the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ made the dua that may Allah bless my people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us as Muslims and continue to bless us and keep us good for two things. As long as we delay the suhoor and we make the iftar early. So suppose the Fajr adhan is at 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. Then the Prophet ﷺ wants you to keep eating and drinking and eating and drinking until 5:59.59. 5 a.m., 59 minutes and 59 until 6 o'clock, until the time of the adhan. Delay it as much as you can. And even a suhoor is a glass of water, even if it's just like some people, they don't like to eat a lot in the morning, but to get the blessing and get the reward and the etiquette, even if you take a glass of water or a glass of water or a date or whatever, that's considered suhoor, okay? But delay it as much as you can. And then iftar, the same thing. If the azan of Maghrib is at 6 p.m., then sharp at 6 p.m., start drinking. Don't wait until the azan is over. Don't wait till someone else, or don't think that, if I do this, no. The etiquette, the best blessing is to delay the suhoor until the end and the iftar as early as possible. The next one is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is eating dates. And there's different groups of dates, preferably what's called rutab and then tamr and so on. But whatever it is, basically dates is the best kind of iftar that we should, as Muslims, have. And also water. So if you have water and dates, that's the perfect iftar you can start with. And then after that, start eating and drinking other things. If you don't, may Allah bless whatever you start eating with. Another etiquette is a dua. The Prophet ﷺ, in more than one hadith, talks about how Allah answers the dua and loves the dua at the time of the iftar. When you're eating and doing your iftar at that moment, pray. All of us have, health issues and children and marriage and work and business, and we want to do this and we want to do that and all the ambitions that we have. Then make the dua. Even while you're eating, take a moment, take a pause, and as you're waiting, to take a pause and make as much dua as you can. And one of the duas that the Prophet ﷺ used to do was, and this is one of the etiquettes, is ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله. So try and make that dua as much as you can. ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله. Okay. Next is ترك الغيبة. The Prophet ﷺ mentions a number of things that if you do it while you're fasting, Allah is sufficient. He doesn't need your fasting. In other words, stay far away from those things when you're fasting, and they all have to do with the tongue. So it's false witness, it's lying, it's attacking, it's gossiping, the bad things that we can say about other people. False witness is when I go to court or in front of people and I know that this person did not do it, but because he's my friend or because he's related to me, I say, no, this person did it. Even though that I know that they didn't do it, false witness, that is something you cannot do while you're fasting, or lie about people or gossip about people. Even if there's something bad that they do, but it embarrasses them or they're not comfortable with it, don't tease them or don't belittle them while you're fasting. It's very important to hold our tongue while we're fasting. Another one also is when someone wrongs us or says something to attack us or does something to anger us. You're driving and somebody cuts you off, or you're walking and someone, as much as possible, always remember that you're fasting and say, Inni sa'im, oh, inni mri'un sa'im, I am fasting. I'm giving up anger and food and drink for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and let that reminder of your fast diminish your anger. Like some mistakes that we make while we're fasting. some mistakes that we make while we're fasting. What are those mistakes? Again, we did not say it's haram. We did not say it's a sin. We say it's a mistake. It's a shortcoming. It's a shortcoming. The one, as we say, is rafath. Rafath is that anger and getting upset and arguing and no, no, no. Anything with your tongue, try and control it. Try to be comfortable. Try to be that loving father, loving husband, loving wife, loving son, loving daughter, loving neighbor, loving as much as possible. Avoid that and just bring yourself down in the month of Ramadan. Like, second one is sleeping all day. Again, I'm not talking about people that work third shift and work all night so they have to rest during the day. I'm talking about people that might have the weekend of Ramadan off and yet they pray Fajr and they sleep. And sometimes we don't even pray Dhuhr or Asr on time, which now we enter into a very wrong territory. So again, there's a lot of blessings in the month of Ramadan, and try to cut down on excessive sleep. Let me just put it that way. The third one is al-israf fil akl. When we talk about Ramadan, the first thing we think is, oh my God, we have to have so much food. And unfortunately, most of the time, we don't even eat 1/3 or 1/4, not half, but not even 1/3 or 1/4 of the food, and we throw away a lot of it, which goes against everything that Ramadan teaches us. Allah says in the Quran, "Kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu." Eat and drink, and don't be excessive and don't be wasteful. And actually, especially the families eating together, let the husband, let the wife, let the children say, Baba, Mama, don't cook too much. Let's not too cook. It's Ramadan. We're not here to eat a million things. We're here to worship Allah and read the Quran and better ourselves. And instead of Mama or Baba cooking all day, let's spend some more time reading the Quran together or reading about the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So let's not be wasteful when it comes to food. Next is what we call rukhas. What rukhas is, Allah out of His mercy and Prophet salam out of His mercy and love for us gave us certain excuses that we can use, certain privileges that we can use in the month of Ramadan. So one of them is when we are sick. When someone is sick, they're able to break their fast. Again, sick, like I said, there's different degrees. We're not talking about just someone who's slightly tired or sneezing or coughing or whatever. No, we're talking about someone that has something. Then there's that person can break their fast. They're not required to fast. If they're strong enough to continue fasting and it's not going to hurt them long term, continue fasting. If it's something that is better for you to break your fast, or you're more comfortable breaking your fast, then and you need to take medication during the day and at night, for example, then in that case, by all means, make up fast, and then make up your fast after the month of Ramadan, before the following Ramadan. So you have that year. After this Ramadan is over, whatever days you break your fast, you have until the next Ramadan, inshallah, to make it up, and we'll make it up. Like, there's two kinds of sicknesses. There's a sickness where doctors say, or people normally say, as the fuqaha say, that we might be healed from. And there's a disease where we might not be healed from. So I have a disease where, let's say, may Allah protect all of us, I had a surgery. And I have to take painkillers, and I need to do this. And so during that surgery, I know after 2-3 months, I'm going to be back to normal. So if I break my fast for 5 days, what happens? After Ramadan, I make up those 5 days. But suppose I have, may Allah protect us, a long-term disease. Let's say I'm going through a disease that I know I'm not going to be healed from it, and I always need to eat and drink and take medication for the rest of my life. Then in that case, I know I'm not going to be able to make up for it, not after 1 month, not after 2 months. So what do? For every day that I break my fast, I feed a poor person. For every day that I break my fast, I feed a poor person. So if the month of Ramadan is 29 days, then I feed 29 poor people. If the month of Ramadan is 30 days, then I feed 30 people. And I don't feed them before Ramadan or before the days. I feed them on the day and onwards. So I don't come on the first day of Ramadan and I feed 30 people, because I only have 1 day so far. So I can't feed the 30 people. But let's say day 2, I can feed 2 people. Day 5, I can feed 5 people. Day 30, I can feed 30 people. So it's after the day, on the day or after the day that I feed for, and not before that. Hopefully that makes sense. This second thing that we could do while we're fasting is siwak. Siwak is that wooden or a small branch that you can brush your teeth with. Absolutely. Day, night, evening, you can do the siwak and brush your teeth. Actually, it's preferred when you wake up. It's preferred when you're reading the Quran. It's preferred when you're speaking to people, that you have that fresh, smell of your mouth. When you're going to bed, for it to be clean. When you're going to the masjid and salah also. So it's highly recommended to do the siwak. Even though the Prophet ﷺ said that smell, the smell that comes from our mouth sometimes when we're fasting for days, that smell that we're not comfortable with and we're embarrassed from and we're trying to hide it, it's better in the sight of Allah than misk. because Allah knows where it's coming from. It's coming out of your love for Him and fasting. So He loves it even more than misk. So there's a lot of reward for that. So people might talk about brushing our teeth using the brush and toothpaste, which is again perfectly all right, 100% halal. But a lot of the imams and a lot of the scholars say it depends how strong the flavor is, because you don't want to be able to taste it and swallow it, and it's as if you're eating something. So it's that's why don't brush as much. And if you do, that just be mindful of gurgling and spitting out that taste, so that flavor does not enter, for lack of a better word. But brushing your teeth by itself or using the miswak preferably does not, of course, break your fast. Next, we have people that if they have asthma or certain things that use the inhalers. Does the inhaler break my fast? Absolutely not. The inhaler does not break your fast. Of course, you don't want it to be extra misty, or if there's flavors and stuff like that, you want to stay away from it. We're talking about medical inhalers for someone that has asthma or some breathing problems. Absolutely does not break our fast. Next is I'm cooking for my family, and can I taste the food? I want to make sure if there's too much salt or little salt or spicy enough, or yes, you can taste it, as long as you don't, again, just spit out whatever, but don't eat it, don't swallow it. But yes, you can taste the food. It's perfectly okay. Like, next is can I swim? Is swimming gonna break my fast? Absolutely not. And of course, just like if you do wudu, your intent, even though the water is in your mouth and you spit it out, your intention is not to swallow it. Same thing with swimming. Your intention is not to drink the water. If an accident, incident happens where you swallow water, it's not your intention. So there's nothing wrong with that. Like, next is drops, eye drops, ear drops. Can I use it, for whatever medical reason and stuff? Eye drops, ear drops, absolutely, because it's not food or drink, and it's not something that replaces food or drink. So remember, the things that break our fast are that sexual relation, between the married couple, and food and drink, or things that replace food and drink. And eye drops, ear drops are not things that break that or get into that area. Fine. Next is what we call hijama. Hijama is coupling, so it's a way of taking, of removing blood, what they call, bad blood, or the bad blood basically out of your system, and it just makes you feel a lot more energized. And it's a good way of kind of re-energizing and re-healing yourself. It's something that it's good to do. It's a form of medicine, basically, coupling. Coupling does not break our fast. It's preferred not to do it while you're fasting, because a lot of blood might come out, and some people are strong and nothing happens to them, and some people, very few cases, but some people might faint or lightheaded or whatever. So just because a lot of blood is coming, it's better not to do it while you're fasting. But if you're strong enough, and if you've done it before and it doesn't affect you, there's nothing wrong. Go ahead and do it while you're fasting. Same thing with donating blood. Accident happened, and I had to give blood. Absolutely, donate blood. It does not break your fast. Right. But if it's a big amount, and you start getting dizzy or whatever, then you do that. Same thing if it's optional. Somebody comes to donate blood, and they need a lot of blood, and I'm donating a lot of blood, and it's optional. There's no accident or life emergency in front of me. Then don't do it while you're fasting. If you might be lightheaded, some people get lightheaded or might get sick or dizzy or whatever. No, fast is better for you to fast. But if you're someone who donates on a regular basis, and you donate, nothing's going to happen to you, then by all means go ahead and donate. Except if there's an accident in front of you and you're saving someone's life, by all means give it. And even if you get lightheaded or whatever, break your fast, eat and drink, and because this is an emergency, and inshallah you'll be rewarded, and you can make up for that day at any other time. One question that happens is people that travel to countries, especially a country like Sweden, where in northern Sweden, a day sometimes extends to 23, 22, 21 hours, possibly in areas around that area where a day could extend that long. So basically, you only have an hour or two to eat and drink and do everything else. So here is what we call ijtihad. Ijtihad means we try and find what can we do. The Prophet ﷺ speaks about Yawm al-Qiyamah without getting into a lot of the discussion. He speaks about the day of judgment, al-Masih al-Dajjal, and he says the time will come when a day will almost be as long as a year. Yani the sun will be up for almost the whole year. And that's what we see today and so on. And in other places, the day is so long, 6 months or more, and the night is 6 months or more, and stuff like that, and whatever. So what do we do in situations like these? In situations where, so a couple of situations. Situation number one, where the day is so long. So some scholars try to find a safe number. So this is not a hadith, but this is a safe number. A safe number that a day should not be more than 16 hours. Okay, so this is an approximation that some imams came up with. They said a day should not be more than, let's say, 16, 17 hours, because you need time to pray Maghrib, you need some time to eat and drink, you need some time to pray Isha, you need some time to sleep and rest, and then wake up and pray Fajr. So if it's more than 16, 17 hours, it's not a normal day. It's not by day, it's within the same 24 hours. You have a night, but the night is only 1 hour, 2 hours, not enough for you to do all the things that you need to do, such as rest and sleep and pray and eat and drink and everything else. So some people stick with option number one. If there is a night, regardless if this night is only 4 hours or 5 hours and the day is 19 or 20 hours, then you fast the 18, 19 hours and you break your fast those 4 or 5 hours. Another group of people said no. If it's more than 16, 17, 18 hours, or if there's no night. So we are at that time where there's more than a month or two where there's no night. It's just the sun is up all the time. Okay, in those two cases, some imams say what we can do is what the Prophet ﷺ said about that hadith, which is فَقْدُرُ لَهُ قَدْرًا. فَقْدِرُ, which means estimate and restrict the time as you see fitable. So some people say, let's find the closest city where there is day and night. So I am in this city in northern Sweden, I'm in this city in the North Pole or whatever, and the closest city where there is day and night from me, or the closest state or whatever, is such and such a state or such and such a country. And in that country, Maghrib is at 9 o'clock, Isha is at 10:30, Fajr is at 5 o'clock in the morning. Then even though the sun is up the whole time, but we're going to go with their schedule and the closest thing, which is inshallah perfectly all right. Some other imams say no, we follow the timings of Mecca, because that's the safest place we can go against. And based on those time zones, we can use it. Again, that's their opinion. There's nothing that's 100% definitive. So my highest recommendation is whatever your imam says, follow your imam as long as they're knowledgeable. Okay, as long as you have an imam that did their research and, so asked different imams and came up with an opinion, whatever your imam decides, whatever your community decides, they want to follow Mecca, they want to follow this, give your opinion, discuss with them. But at the end of the day, you follow the community that you're with, that you're within. But here are some options that I just wanted to share with you. Right. In the month of Ramadan, of course, the blessings of Ramadan are a lot, and there's a lot of discussion on it. But a couple of things that are important. Number one is the dua. When you're fasting, you are very close to Allah. The whole time you're fasting, from Fajr until Maghrib. Allah loves you so much because you gave up. In the hadith, it says that he's glorifying himself in front of the angels and saying to the angels, look at my servant so-and-so. She's giving up her food and drink for me. Look at so-and-so. He's giving up his food and drink for me. He's so proud and happy of you. So at the whole time when you're fasting, number one, pray and ask Allah as much as you can. He's proud of you. He's happy of you. He wants to give you because you have given up for him. The second one is read the Quran. Quran is very close to fasting in Ramadan. Ramadan and fasting is very close to the Quran. So read the Quran, try and memorize it, try and research it, see the meanings, the tafsir of the ayat as much as you can. Next is dhikr. Dhikr is always remember Allah. You can have a masbah, you can do it with your hands, but always mention Allah as much as you can. Pray on the Prophet ﷺ as much as you can. Say astaghfirullah as much as you can. When you wake up, there's certain adhkar, certain dhikr that people say after Asr or Maghrib. There's certain dhikr you say in the evenings. When you walk into your house, there's certain dhikr. When you go into the masjid, there's certain dhikr. Memorize it, study it, and keep saying those adhkar as much as you can. Silat al-Rahim, a relationship, especially with your family. Okay, we cannot be a good Muslim if I haven't spoken to my father or mother in so many days, if they're alive. If they have passed away, I cannot be a good Muslim if I haven't made dua for them every day in my salah. So make dua for them if they have passed away, that Allah showers His mercy upon their graves and give them al-firdaus al-a'la. And if they're alive, call them, visit them, talk to them, make them laugh, give them kind words. Some of us, we want to talk about the bad things that happened to us, to our parents. You won't believe what my kids did. You won't believe what happened in my workplace. No, they suffered their whole life to make you happy. Now that they're older and you're older, show them the happy side. Give them the happy side. Don't share with them just the bad stuff and so on. And of course, once we talk about Ramadan, there's a lot of beautiful things such as Laylat al-Qadr and the Taraweeh and the Qiyam. that we can do. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and bless your families. I think there's a couple of things maybe that I missed. I just want to go back about them, things that are permissible to do while we're fasting. So a husband, for example, can I, as a husband, kiss my wife? The answer is absolutely yes. You can kiss your wife. You can touch your wife as long as there's no inzal, as long as you can control yourself and nothing is comes out of you in the sexual sense, then it's 100% halal. But you try and avoid it or minimize it so that you're not tempted into it. But kissing, absolutely yes, does not break your fast. Smoking and vaping, absolutely. And smoking and vaping, you shouldn't be doing. Shame on you. If you smoke and vape, you shouldn't be doing it out of Ramadan. So Ramadan and in the day of Ramadan, no, 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 no. We need to have a side conversation if you smoke, okay? Ramadan is the time for you to be healthy and strong. So don't even dare ask that question, but dare ask, how can I lose weight? How can I be healthy? How can I be stronger? And all the positive things that you could do with your health. Allah bless you to be very healthy and strong. Don't destroy your health by smoking or vaping and doing those things that are just gonna make us worse. Like if I go to the doctor's office, injections, the only exception is meal replacement. So if someone is in a hospital, they can't eat and drink, sometimes they give them certain nutrients. So those nutrients, it seems most likely that will break my fast. So if I'm giving those nutrients, no, consider yourself broken your fast and make up those days after the month of Ramadan. However, normal injections, so anesthesia injections, no, does not break your fast. You're going in for MRI, whatever, and sometimes they give you certain things in your blood or whatever, does not break your fast. So other injections normally do not break our fast, okay, as long as they're not meal replacements, to simplify the concept there. Fine. I went to the dentist and they did, clean my teeth and some blood came out, or maybe I swallowed something. The most important thing is it's not intentional. You try and whatever, and every so often you spit and whatever, the doctors allow you to do that, the dentist, and so on. So you try and keep your mouth clean, but there's nothing wrong going to the dentist and getting your checkup. And if by mistake something happens, Allah does not hold us responsible for our mistakes. As at the end of Surah Al-Baqarah, where he says, the Sahaba says, رَبَّنَا لَا تُؤَاخِذْنَا نَسِينَا وَأَخْطَأْنَا. Allah do not hold us responsible and punish us if we forget or we miss something. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, surely if it's by mistake, I will not hold you responsible or punish you for it. So that's the case with it. Hopefully you find this informative. Hopefully we've answered a lot of your questions. Hopefully it's valuable. Again, a lot of us are looking for a quick answer. Hopefully this is a quick answer, but some of us are looking for the proof and the verses and whatever. And inshallah, in the future, we'll take each one in more detail. But I just wanted to have everything summarized into one episode where people can look at it, reference it quickly, and share it with their friends and family members, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of your good deeds. And if you're fasting, I beg you to please include me in your dua, as I will pray for you and your families, that Allah bless you, bless your families, and all of your loved ones, inshallah. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب